right?
Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm Adam Hart.
And I'm Carl Swantoon.
And we are Clear Impact Coaching. Welcome to another one of our beautiful sessions. Today, Carl, what are we up to?
Well, we're going to do a bit of a deeper dive into the power of nervous system regulation and how it is just a key in opening the door to everything in life.
All right.
So, you've heard us talk a lot about nervous system regulation, how to regulate your nervous system in the moment. But we want to just get into why that's so important. And we're going to use some real world situations to show you what it can feel like when you're deregulated, when your nervous system is a bit out of whack, or when you're regulating your nervous system and getting it to flow. So, Adam, why don't we start? If you could give us a brief description, just sort of physiologically, of what the two states of the nervous system are.
Yeah. Well, essentially, we're talking about the parasympathetic and the sympathetic. So one we know as the fight or flight response or freeze, or the calm rest and digest state. And those two states, every moment in life is being filtered through the nervous system. So they have very distinct experiences to them that a lot of the times we're not familiar with.
Right. And so, as we talked about before, due to how we changed the way we live on this planet over the last few hundred years, we've really knocked our nervous systems out of whack. And we are evolved to stay in that beautiful, calm, rest and digest state for most of our days, weeks, months, years, life, right? And we aren't the sympathetic or fight or flight state of the nervous system is important for our survival. But unfortunately, based on all the stressors in modern society, and we won't get into that side of it, but we tend to be living in that state more and more often. And when we explain it to you in real world situations, I think you're going to be able to notice, like, hey, yeah, I've sat there for lots of time, and it's it can be really subtle. But when we're in that state, we're really not growing, and we're not recovering and healing and able to do so much. So let's get right into it, Adam. When we're deregulating, our common reality this day and age when we're stressed, what are some of the examples of what that looks like, what that feels like to be in that state?
Yeah. Now, there's an experience that happens when fight or flight kicks in, where if you're able to separate yourself from it, you'll notice what's triggering you. And it's usually coming from particular thoughts that your brain has patterned you into looping. And they revolve around dominantly four main areas of our lives: our health, our relationships, our finance, and our career. And so if you can really get into touch with, hey, in this moment, I'm being triggered. So an example, maybe you go onto your banking statement to look at your financial situation, and you get a shock because you're not quite where you want to be. And so that creates a stress response. The idea of coming down in the morning time, and you're for me with the kids, it's like, if it's really loud and they're feeling anxious, I get anxious and I get triggered. So these are life experiences that have a significant shift on our ability of how we manage things.
Right. So we're getting triggered all the time into this state. So let's talk about examples of what it feels like to be in that state. First of all, we tend to be reactive. Without thinking, we just react, right? And what can that look like? What are some examples of sort of having uncontrollable emotions?
Yeah, yelling, just the agitation, the way you might speak back to somebody, the way you talk to yourself, the internal dialogue to yourself.
So reacting to loved ones, and I think we can all feel that experience when we say something, I didn't really mean that, or we use some emotion with our kids and we feel bad about maybe getting angry. So that's kind of what you're talking about. Or road rage is another example of that. Somebody cuts us off and we're going to chase them down for 15 minutes and just lose our shit, right? Another side of that is, do you notice yourself, and it can be very subtle, being defensive on your position or what your truth is, or argumentative with other people about, what is quote unquote the truth? I think we see that so much in the news and on social media, everyone defending their positions. And that really can come from that reactive, uncontrollable state, right? Right.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a level of this where we're just not, as a human experience, our brain is not adapting. As beautiful as it is, as a gorgeous organ and powerful, it's definitely, it's being there's a lack of disconnect with the power of it, and it kind of starts to fall into the reactive state. And I think we'll dive into that for sure.
So when we're deregulated, when we're in that sympathetic or fight or flight state, something else that is maybe a hint for you that you're in that state is your cravings can become uncontrollable, right? So what are the things that people turn to when they're in that reactive, deregulated state?
Yeah, well, we're looking at the dominant coping habits, and that looks like whether it's social media, maybe it's sugar, maybe it's alcohol, maybe it's shopping, maybe it's gambling.
Yeah.
There's so much involved there.
So what are some of the mental impacts when we're in that fight or flight state throughout our day and regularly? How does that show up mentally?
Well, brain fog is the number one. That's really the top of the list. You just feel like you can't quite think clean and clear continually throughout your day.
Right.
You get those the uncertain thoughts. Like, how am I supposed to do this? What should I do next? What about this? A lot of confusion, a lot of lack of focus, demotivation.
Yeah, lack of focus for sure. Being distracted easily, and yeah, you're just not in flow, right? Doesn't feel like it's flowing. And what about physical impacts?
Yeah, you're more achy, you're more, you're inflamed. So as soon as you have an extended period of fight or flight that's going on, your hormones are being produced differently. So, it shifts your experience physically in a way where you have lack of energy. You think about weight gain starts to happen when you have inflammation. That has a lot to do with the cravings that start to kick in. Your mitochondrial function decreases, so your immune function starts to be suppressed.
Ways you can
from that.
I like what you said. The ways you can notice it, you just a lack of energy, exhaustion. If you're just feeling physically and mentally exhausted regularly, is why am I so exhausted? That's a great example of being in that state all the time, because it just drains us of energy, because it doesn't give a shit about anything else other than just surviving. So it's going to take all the energy we have towards that. Inability to sleep. I think it really, so many people complain about an inability to sleep, and they're like, I need to, take melatonin, and I need to, do whatever and listen to this app before I go to bed and all those things. Well, it's so much bigger than that, right? When we're deregulated, sleep is not something that's going to come easily, and it adds to the problem because getting a good sleep helps us regulate too, right?
Yeah.
So, let's look at the other side. The other side of the coin. So I think if you listen to that picture we just painted about what it feels like to be deregulated and not having a nervous system in that calm state, you can probably notice a few things about your life. You go, oh yeah, I've felt that, or I'm in that regularly, maybe, or all the time. If that's the case, I feel for you, and there's certainly a pathway out. But let's talk about what the life experience can be when we are living our day in the calm, rest, and digest state, despite all of the stressors that continue to hit us, because they're still going to continue to hit us out there. What are some of the examples of what it feels like to be in that state, Adam?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you look at looking at the physical versus the mental side of things, there are completely different experiences. Obviously, physically, we're starting to use our nervous system in a way where the nervous system can allow us to heal and thrive. And as a feeling experience, with that comes definitely, obviously, you have a boost in your immune function, but immediately you start to feel more energized. You start to feel more fit. You have better recovery, daily recovery of your physical day, whether it's just getting about things done and throwing your kids up in the air once in a while, or you're actually doing some fitness pieces too. You just all of that starts to just become a lot smoother. And then there's the cognitive side of things, the immediacy of being able to use your brain energy and brain power, the focus that enhances. the clarity, the motivation, all those comes from harnessing the nervous system in that state.
Yeah, I think there's for me, the mental side of it is number one, there's certainly more clarity, like you say, more ability to think clearly and analyze things just more easily. But there's also that greater connection to our intuition and to our heart. So it's really joining the heart and the mind to work as one. And it just, the tasks we take on just feel right. And they just seem easier to accomplish when we're in that state. And you spoke about physical aside, that idea of having more energy, recovering our energy more easily, just being at peace and calm actually gives you, that more energy. And I think it allows us to access that sort of state of flow more easily. The door's open for us to, engage in those activities that make us feel good because we're able to, on the mental side, connect to our intuition of what feels good. So it all sort of fits together, as we're a system, obviously, not separate pieces. I think on the mental side too, I just say I think twice. Yeah, that's kind of weird. I think instead of being reactive, we can tend to be more responsive. So it allows us to step back from that uncontrollable emotion with our children or our spouse or that irritability or anger or argumentative nature, defending our position, where we just become more able to hold space for others to be whoever they need to be in that moment. And that feels really good to be able to separate ourselves and sort of manage our emotions, right? Just have an ability to go, okay, I feel that, I noticed that coming up, and that's okay. We're human beings, we're gonna feel emotions. But to be able to hold them at their right level, to feel them and let them go and to go on without having our emotions own us. It's really powerful.
Yeah, the choice is something.
Yeah. So just before we move on, if you are watching this on YouTube, please see the button in the bottom right corner there. Subscribe to our channel if you want to watch more videos like this. Look at some of our playlists. I think you're going to find some great stuff on there. Give us a comment, give us a like if you like what you're hearing. So we painted a bit of a picture there, what it could feel like to be in that calm rest and digest state more often. And before we get into the idea of, how can you manifest that? How can you get there? Why is being in the calm rest and digest parasympathetic nervous system state so valuable, Adam? What can come from that?
How much am I allowed to go here?
Go ahead, man. Go for it.
I'm gonna go. Let me go for a little bit then.
Sure.
So this is really, there's a missing link to the whole realm of manifestation law of attraction. All right. And so if you think about the 80-20 rule, 80-20 being the dominant majority of our lives is spent in a fight or flight state. 80% of the time, whether we know it or not, there's so many stimulants that are impacting us that deny us the ability to access our flow states. When we reverse that, meaning when you get to the point where you've trained your nervous system in the moments of life that it's being triggered by your brain loves to keep you in these looping patterns because it feeds off of your stress response. The more you train it to let go, the more you live in the parasympathetic, and you want to get it to where you're now living that 80% in the parasympathetic. The key here is understanding that your nervous system is constantly vibrating, always. And that's what gets sent out into the quantum field, the universe, God, whatever you call it. And it's going to attract back to you the same vibration. The vibration is coming from how you feel. If you're stuck in fight or flight 80% of your life, and you're agitated with all the things in your life, your health, your finance, your career, your health, relationships, all those pieces, if they feel a bit sticky, it's because you're locked in patterns of thinking that are denying your nervous system to create the energy of how you want to feel. And so when you reset the nervous system in the moments of life, which we're going to talk about, and then reset the vibration at the same time, that's when you have the power to start to use your nervous system as a manifesting tool to start to bring back to you more of the feelings of what you do want. Right. There's a very particular order, the right tools in the right order. But I think with the question being, what's the power of this? Yeah, obviously there's some real physical, mental benefits that are immediately accessed when you start to work with your nervous system in the moments of life. But it's the manifestation that's the most fun.
Yeah, no doubt, right? And what does that look like? What do you mean when you say manifestation?
Well, there's a way to play with your nervous system in relation to putting in a feeling that you want to have. So when you know you're being agitated, so you come down in the morning and you see your partner, and your partner, the way the brain works is it uses proximity. So it likes to use the people closest to you to build stories around, because it knows that you're being reactive in a lot of ways to the people around you, and it feeds off of your reaction. The fight or flight stress response creates adrenaline. Adrenaline is a surge of energy that the brain uses. And then the coping habits we have, which are dopamine based, is the way the brain gets the voltage. It's the voltage of the brain. So there's an element of how we're showing up in a lot of our relationships where we're being triggered into reacting. And when we pause that, reset it, bring in the feeling of what we do want in the moment. I want this to feel this way. This is how I want to feel in this moment. I don't want to be agitated that way. I want to feel this. It immediately resets the nervous system vibration for you to be able to attract that feeling back to you in another way very quickly. The key is it's not determinant to outcome. It's the feeling you're attracting. It's not the outcome.
Sure. Yeah, well, it's not the outcome that we necessarily can say, that's what I need to achieve, right? But the outcomes can be pretty spectacular at the same time, because what Adam was describing there is how do I want my relationship to feel? And yeah, I mean, don't we all want our love relationships to be deep and meaningful and connected and compassionate and loving and all of those things? We can all fantasize about that, but our reality tends not to match that so well when we're all revved up. So why is this process valuable? It opens the door to creating really dynamic, loving, connected relationships. So important, right?
It does. It's all of it. It allows the nervous system to do what it wants to do to allow us to feel and experience abundance in all areas: relationships, our health, our finance, our career. It could all be realized in this moment, not years or months from now. You can have it be your reality now.
It's funny because you say that, and I know what's going on in some of your minds out there when you hear Adam say, you know, in your career and your finances. Oh yeah, no, yeah, right. Rent just went up to $3,000 a month, and how am I supposed to do this? Well, that's your brain trying to figure it out. That's your brain saying, you know, this is a problem. You need to fix this, and you better write a longer to-do list, and you better get more shit done. You better get a second job. And what Adam's saying here is, consider a different approach. That different approach being, choose your vibration and get physics, get the universe, get quantum field working for you in attracting your opportunities to feel the abundance you want to feel. And it may not show up in exactly the same way you think it needs to, because again, that's the brain creating the outcome, but it's going to show up. You know, opportunities will show up for you to feel abundant. And in our world, of course, finances are required to feel at a certain level of abundance. It's an expensive culture we live in. So, you know, having a roof over our head that's comfortable and having good food to eat and all those things do take money. So, but that's definitely available. It can be hard to buy into that when your mind's in a revved up state. So if you're watching this and your mind's going, no, this is stupid. No, this doesn't, you know, you might have probably not watching anymore if your brain's doing that. But if you are, recognize that that's your state of energy. And there is a way to shift that. It doesn't have to be that difficult. Adam, why don't you tell us how to start to shift our vibration?
Yeah. Well, and this is really critical, I think, especially in the way that our worlds are colliding right now, and the life's happening around us. The reason why we don't know how to use our energy efficiently, I don't know. But the critical piece is understanding that what we're doing here is we're working with the nervous system in the moments of life. In the moment, life is our classroom. We have a lot of folks that we work with in our coaching programs they've done a lot of the big programs out there, whether it's the Tony Robbins, the Esther Hicks, the Joe Dispenzas, all those programs. And then they come and they work with us and they say, you know, over and over again, it's like, what you guys are doing is different because you're focused on the nervous system, number one, but not just that, you're focused on the nervous system in the moments of life. That's the game changer here, right? And it's about putting faith into that if it resonates for you, and belief into that, because the mind wants to stop us. It doesn't want us to know this. because it likes the looping patterns that it's got you locked in, and the comfortability of knowing it's going to be consistently fed the
Right.
stress hormones. And so it takes something to move into this space. Now, to do it, essentially what we're working with here initially, there's 7 pillars to growth. All right. The first key one is the foundational side of things, which is working with the nervous system as the primary. The nervous system needs 2 things. It needs one, it needs to be reset in the moments it's being triggered. All right. The moments of your life that you're being triggered, you need to reset it. And that's heart flow. Heart flow is a 33-second breath practice designed based off of heart rate variability, creates coherence through the vagus nerve so that you start to reset the stress response. So you drop back into the parasympathetic so that your executive function turns back on and you have the space of choice to then do step 2, which is feel the way you want to feel. Connect to the vision of who you want to be in this moment, related to what's happening in your life in that moment. Connect to that feeling of how do I choose to be? And that is the foundation. When you start to practice that every day, 3 times or more every single day, you're going to notice immediately some massive cognitive benefits, physical benefits, but the manifestation piece is the one you want to really pay attention to, because then your belief around this is going to go up and you're going to stay committed to doing this practice in a way where everything starts to show up much sweeter, much more aligned, much happier. And that's what we need more of right now.
Yeah, that's great. Great explanation, Adam. Thank you. And like Adam says, it's the right tools in the right order. And we're happy to share these tools with you. This isn't something where we say, now you have to, give us tens of thousands of dollars to buy these tools. The first tool is our heart flow breath work. And if you're interested to learn how to utilize that, I mean, that's the game changer. It's the first one. It's our go-to every single time when we're feeling deregulated. And this happens to everybody. It happens to Adam and I. It happens to everyone. We're human beings in a chaotic society. So if you want to learn how to utilize our heart flow breath work, give us a note on this, or give us a DM, and we're happy to share a free training with you on that.
And attend one of our virtual positivity parties, which are coming soon.
I don't think we're supposed to talk about that. I have to cut out the back of this video now.
No. They're coming.
All right. Yeah. And if you're watching this on YouTube, there should be another video showing up any second now with a link to our heart flow training for you. Subscribe to our channel, give us a like, give us a comment. Any final thoughts you'd like to share with everyone out there in Facebook land, Adam?
We do have a choice to feel as abundant as we want to feel. We have to let the nervous system have its space to do so. Not thinking our way through. Use the nervous system. We'll teach you how to do that. We love you guys. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.